Verbs. Oh my goodness! Verbs are fantastic! I'm doing a verb right now. You're doing a verb right now. In fact, everything I do is a verb. Even making verbs is a verb. But do you know how to make verbs with suffixes? Do you even know what a suffix is? A suffix is a group of letters that you put at the end of a word to make a new word. That is incredible. My name is Toby, this is Smash English, and here is everything you need to know about making verbs with suffixes for the B2 First Cambridge exam. Firstly, these are easier than using suffixes to form nouns and adjectives. Why? Because there are fewer to remember. Now, let's start with our first suffix. We can add the suffix en, un, to a noun or an adjective to make a verb. The verb means to make something into that noun or adjective. And that sounds confusing, but it's not. Don't worry, I'll give you lots and lots of examples. But Toby, how do we know if we need to use the adjective or the noun? Well, you don't. You just need to learn it. And that's a terrible thing. Here are some very common B2 first level verbs that finish with the suffix en, un, derived from adjectives. Wide becomes widen. Short becomes shorten. Hard becomes harden. Soft becomes soften. Bright becomes brighten. Deep becomes deepen. And straight becomes straighten. So if you straighten something, it means you make it straight. For example, this woman is straightening her hair. Brilliant! If you brighten something, it means you make it brighter. For example, I have brightened this video. It is now brighter. And this video has brightened your life. Your life is brighter thanks to this video. However, sometimes we can do this with nouns too. So, length becomes lengthen. And strength becomes strengthen. These two are very popular in part 3 of the B2 First Use of English paper, so make sure you know them. It is very important that you know long is the adjective, length is the noun, lengthen is the verb. Wide is the adjective, width is the noun, and widen is the verb. Strong is the adjective, strength is the noun, and strengthen is the verb. These three come up in the exam all the time. And maybe you are now thinking, but Toby, I don't know how to do part 3 of the Use of English paper. I didn't even know that there was a part 3. And that means you have big problems. But don't worry, because Smash English has a video all about part 3 of the B2 First Use of English paper. So click this link here, watch it, learn, love me, leave a comment, and I'll be happy with myself. Please. And to make things even more difficult, just because you see a word ending in en, it does not necessarily mean that it is a verb. It could also be an adjective. Using the suffix en at the end of a noun can create an adjective that means made of that noun. For example, wood becomes wooden, gold becomes golden, and wool becomes woolen. So here is a wooden chair. Fascinating. Here is a golden cup. Wow. These next suffixes are a bit more confusing. We can add ify, to a noun or an adjective to make a verb. If I add ify, I make a verb. They're gonna love that joke. That was brilliant. Oh. Again, the meaning is to make something into that noun or adjective. Here are some examples of verbs ending in the suffix ify derived from nouns that you need to know at the B2 First level. Notice becomes notify. Beauty becomes beautify. Identity becomes identify. Glory becomes glorify. and quantity becomes quantify. But it is also very common to make verbs using if-I from adjectives at the B2 first level. So here are some that you need to know. Satisfied becomes satisfy. Horrified becomes horrify. Terrified becomes terrify. Pure becomes purify. Solid becomes solidify. And simple becomes simplify. And, as always, please remember that if the root word ends in Y, we don't need it. Take the Y and say, listen Y, I don't need you. The Y will say, why? And you will say, I don't know why. Why? This is English. What am I doing? For example, beauty, identity, and glory. Beautify, identify, glorify. We take the Y and we put an I. Also, if our root word finishes in E, we take the E and we say to the E, go away. For example, pure becomes purify, not purify. That's ridiculous. Simple becomes simplify, not simplify. That's not a word. No! Great! And lastly, we can easily make nouns out of all of these verbs to give the name of the process by adding the suffix ification. Brilliant! I love a bit of ification. Some examples that might be useful for B2 first are purify becomes purification, glorify becomes glorification, identity becomes identification, and notify becomes notification. I love it! This is the best video ever! I love you! Brilliant! Before we begin, let us talk about the spelling. Americans use eyes, I-Z-E, whereas the English, the fantastic English, use eyes, I-S-E. In the exam, it's not important which one you use. If you want to use I-S-E and be British like me, then that's fine. If you want to be American, then I-Z-E is also fine. We use the suffix "-ise", I-S-E or I-Z-E, to make a verb that means to cause to be that thing. But here are some examples. Memory becomes memorize. So if you memorize something, you cause it to be a memory. Industrial becomes industrialize. If you industrialize a place, you make it industrial. American becomes Americanize. If you Americanize something, it means you make it American. And so I should talk like this and Americanize my accent. And real becomes realize. However, there is one exception in meaning that you need to know for the B2 first exam, and that is hospital becomes hospitalize. And this does not mean to make something into a hospital. I hospitalized my bedroom and now it is a hospital. No, that's ridiculous. If you are hospitalized, it means you are very sick and you need to go to hospital and spend some time there to get better. We hope. Please don't die. If you die, then how could you possibly like these videos, subscribe to them, and leave comments? God, don't die. I need you. Oh, I love my supporters. The first thing to know is that not all words ending in ate, ate, are verbs. They can be nouns or even adjectives, and that's a terrible thing. For example, graduate can be a noun. A graduate is someone that has successfully completed school or university. However, to graduate is also a verb. It's the same word, but it has a different meaning. Graduate, someone that graduates. Oh, good God. Other examples are considerate and passionate. Both of these are adjectives, but they end in the suffix ate. Oh, good God, isn't life terrible? But let's forget about that for a moment and focus on the verbs ending in ate. Brilliant! These are my favourite verbs. Some examples that you need to know at the B2 first level are illustrate, calculate, hesitate, investigate, regulate, donate, complicate, dominate, irritate, and motivate. Seriously, I could go on and on and on. However, this is where it gets a bit complicated, because how do you know if you need to use the suffix ate, ate, to form the verb? Well, to know this, you need to know the root of the word. And to know the root of the word, you need to know the word's Latin origins. Yeah, obviously, God. So, learn Latin first, and then come back to me, and we can learn English together. That's stupid. I don't know any Latin. I don't care about Latin. The best strategy is just learn the verbs. Sorry. But one piece of advice that I can give you that is sure to help is every verb that finishes in ate takes the suffix ion to form the noun. This makes a wonderful sound. Ation. Brilliant. And it makes your life very, very easy. Illustrate becomes illustration. Calculate becomes calculation. Hesitate becomes hesitation. Investigate becomes investigation. Regulate becomes regulation. Donate becomes donation. Complicate becomes complication. Dominate becomes domination. Irritate becomes irritation. And motivate becomes motivation. You get the idea, right? And isn't that a great note to finish on? I love making nouns out of verbs. In fact, I like making verbs with suffixes and then making nouns out of those verbs. That is my favourite thing to do. Toby, you need to find friends. And with that, we are finished. Now you know every single thing you need to know about using suffixes to make verbs for the B2 First Cambridge exam. If you liked the video, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment down below. My name is Toby, and this was Smash English.